we want to encourage steel, and therefore I'm very happy that today we are discussing the entire issues related to that. The steel industry is not just manufacturing, but also its onward journey to the consumer happens to the trade, and therefore trade is an extremely important component of this entire value chain. So making sure that traders' interest also is properly protected, we in my ministry have proposed to the Consumer Affairs Ministry that we should have a trade policy for India, retail trade policy. For a simple reason is that will protect the interest of everybody. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but the reality is the internal trade is part of not my ministry but part of Consumer Affairs. So we like to work on an integrated policy as well. I am extremely confident that when India's economy will be $5 trillion in the next few years' time, steel industry will have to grow even in that proportion. In fact, without steel industry's growth, $5 trillion is difficult. And once we have 5 trillion, the steel industry would also increase their capacity in a significant way. So I hope you create all the necessary ecosystem to make it happen.
This is the time and this is the place, this is the conference where these issues are more important. What I feel, my gut feeling is that as far as consumption is the area of concern, domestically we would never be, rather I should say that we would be touching 7 to 8% in times to come. I mean, after a year or so, or 2 years or 3 years. So that is not the area of concern. The area of concern is, are we in a position to have that steel which is required in the other parts of the world? One of the speakers made it a point that if we have that kind of steel, naturally, we cannot lose the status of being net export country.
There is a scrap policy which is coming, and Niti Aayog is doing significant amount of work on that. National metal recycling policy being drafted, so that will also help, and it will provide guidance to enable India to establish an appropriate legislation, administrative and institutional framework for recycling. Basic idea is sustainability, that we should be able to make use of whatever products we are using and stop the scrap which is coming from outside, rather than we make use of our own scrap. That is what is going to happen. We want to achieve a target of almost about 85% recycling rate by the year 2025, and that would also enhance the job creation. There is another policy which is going to support the steel industry, is the domestically manufactured iron and steel products policy of 2017 and DIPP policy of 2018, which is basically give preference in the public procurement for the indigenously produced steel. This policy provides the preference for domestically manufactured iron and steel products in the government procurement. It is applicable to every ministry or department of government of all agencies, entities under the administrative control of the purchase of iron and steel products for the government projects, and not with a view to commercial resale or with a view to use in the production of goods for commercial sale. This is the sum and bonum of this policy. It also provides a minimum value addition about 15% in notified steel products, that is also which are covered under the preferential market procurement, and it promotes Make in India. Government recently has asked all the ministries and departments to notify the domestic content norms for goods to be procured by them under the preferential market scheme.
Ministry is also working on two major initiatives. One is on the scrap policy that will ensure scientific recycling of vehicles and white goods to recover usable industrial scrap, and that would also supplement or replace the import of scrap. We are also working on alloy steel policy that would probably is expected to provide a boost to the value-added steel sectors like the stainless steel, automotive steel, CRGO, electrical sheets, and other alloy steels.
The removal of what I might call the lesser duty rule on trade actions, which has been with us now for quite a long time. Finally, I don't understand why we are still not reducing the import duty on coking coal and limestone. We have tremendous amount of scarcity of these items in India, and I think duties on those items should be completely abolished. Last point, and this I thought the Commerce Ministry needs to register very clearly, is rather than look at the whole anti-dumping duty scenario all over again, it takes a lot of time for the internal mechanisms to work out. If we adopt the safeguards route and use the threat of injury principle there to engineer what you might call suo motu actions. And if that happens, then we could actually do far more than any other strategy.
We are addressing the issue of multimodal logistics in more than one arena. Apart from the fact that we have supported the industry suggestions in the matter of amendment of the Multimodal Logistics Act, all the amendment from which we have supported it, and it's up for a final decision at levels higher than us. We have also taken steps towards action on the ground. We are in the process of issuing an RFP for a multimodal logistics portal, which will be a single set platform for multimodal integration of transport of goods of any sector, and that's one major area. We have sectoral logistics portals, but we don't have one which will encompass all, including the regulators. And our USP is the fact that the PGAs, that is the governmental agencies, would also be part of this portal, in the sense that you would have access to them, and that makes business much more easier than accessing a whole number of portals of different governmental agencies.
इसको अगर रोकना है और मार्केट को ज़रा बढ़ाना है तो इसके बारे में हमको सोचना पड़ेगा, और इसमें ये आप सब लोगों की सहमति और देश की जनता का भी अपेक्षा है, विशेषकर गुणवत्ता के बारे में। जैसा यहाँ पर इंगित किया गया है कि अगर हमको क्वालिटी को मेंटेन करना है तो हम सबको इस पर जोर देना पड़ेगा, और इस्पात गुणवत्ता नियंत्रण आदेश के प्रभाव बहुत उत्साहवर्धक है, और घरेलू मोर्चे पर बड़ी संख्या में विशेष रूप से कोण इस्पात क्षेत्र के इस्पात उत्पादकों ने BIS लाइसेंस प्राप्त कर लिया है। उन्होंने गुणवत्तापूर्ण इस्पात उत्पादों के उत्पादन और आपूर्ति का सहारा लिया है। इससे महत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्र में उपयोग के लिए परखे हुए गुणवत्तापूर्ण इस्पात उत्पाद की उपलब्धता बढ़ गई है। अनुमान है कि देश में खपत हो रहे कुल इस्पात का लगभग 85.90% अब इस्पात गुणवत्ता नियंत्रण आदेश के तहत लाया जा चुका है।
So you have to deal with these two factors. How do you create an environment of self-regulation so that you don't have to go for mandatory technical regulations and their notification to cover large parts of the steel? And second, how do you ensure that the steel which is used by the downstream industry is made available to them of their quality at competitive price? If these two things are consciously decided by the industry, I'm sure the future of Indian industry, because as I said, with a population of 130 crore, 1,300 million people, being one of the lowest per capita consumer of steel, most of the infrastructure still remains to be developed. The housing needs are immense. Some of the fundamental sectors of economy, like the automobile sector, is just beginning to take off. Indian steel has extremely bright future.
Till 2016, it is only BIS which had to carry out the complete surveillance mechanism. There was no way they could have given it to anybody. That is as prior to this BIS 2016 Act. With the coming of this 2016 Act, which came into operation in 2017, now there exists a provision that the central government may, actually is in section 16.2, allow somebody else to carry out this exercise to ensure that there is good quality production happening. I think BIS is very aware of the fact that this surveillance mechanism needs to be stepped up now that we are at a very advanced stage of imposing more and more quality control orders in a large number of areas. You will see surveillance stepped up. And I think steel is where we have the maximum quality control orders. So it is an authority comfortable with doing the surveillance of steel, which will have to be given the task of undertaking this mission to make sure that only quality steel is produced.
We are looking at this domestic, the manufactured iron steel products policy. We are thinking of, it's a continuous process of looking at it, whether there are some shortcomings or things like that. So these things anyway is always work in progress. Also give them instances of how the steel structures, how they can be more useful and more environmental friendly compared to other structures.
Right.
And our architects, our structural engineers, our designers, they have to be taken together.
That we must reduce the royalty rate on these fines so that people find it beneficial to do beneficiation and pelletization and utilize these fines rather than letting them accumulate on the pit heads. Now, there was an order which was issued, but due to some technical thing, they had to withdraw it temporarily. So we expect that the letter should be out again, and this would really benefit all those leaseholders who are in possession of these level of pit, mine at the mine heads. Now, another area which we try to touch upon is to request the Ministry of Mines to increase the size of the mining leases. Now, the reason we wanted to do this is because if the size of the mining leases are more than the 10 kilometers which has been prescribed, the miners are able to bring in technology, you are able to enhance your productivity, and that should also go a long way in aiding this disruption which may take place. So this has not happened exactly the way we have asked for right now, but definitely on a case-to-case basis, Ministry of Mines gives this kind of exemption to various state governments. So we expect that this could also facilitate production.
We have been trying to open up both the sectors, particularly the exploration sector, and open it the mining also for private sector in coal, and bring in enough competition so that adequate amount of coal and other minerals, they become available not only to meet our requirement but at the cheapest possible rate to the feeder industries. And we also very well recognize this fact that all minerals and coal, they are a basic input to the economy and they should be available at the lowest possible prices. I would also request you, when you are bidding for mines, don't bid it like you did in coal, which make it unviable. There is plenty of resources which will be available, they will be put on sale, put on auctions. So be rational while you are bidding and don't get caught into a situation where you have, just for the sake of taking the mining and these blocks, put a price which later on you find that you are unable to meet those.
If you have a look at the steel policy, it was a holistic approach to the policy where it was taken care of enhancing the marketing, amendment to GFR from that end, to making raw material available, what should be the type of import duties, and what kind of needs are needed, and then this heavy NPA problem and NCLT. So every thing was plugged into the policy. Now the time has come to rewrite that holistic approach with mining. And why it is important is that ad hoc and patchwork approach has hit the industry and hit the mining sector quite a lot. We had at a time the court decisions where it cancelled all the mines and it disrupted the production like anything. And people switched over to imports. And when we are sitting on a pile of raw material and minerals, absolutely imports is not something which is welcome.
So out of 243 million ton, if we try our level best, we can substitute approximately 125 million ton. And other 124 million ton or 23 million ton is non-substitute. Means 52 million ton of coking coal is non-substitutable part.
So I was just talking about some of the important announcements regarding tax assessment that have been made by the Honorable Prime Minister. As I was saying, the tax assessment has been made faceless. So the interface between the tax department and the taxpayer would be reduced. It will be jurisdictionless, therefore any assessment being done by us officers sitting in, say, Rajkot will be looking at a taxpayer sitting in Mumbai. So this is to bring in transparency in terms of taxpayer services. And also there will be use of technology, use of information for carrying out tax assessments. So to that extent, there has been a lot of going forward transparency being introduced as far as tax assessment is concerned.